so we have done with the consumer behavior or the consumer theory, in which first of all we have discussed the consumer preferences. We have discussed consumer preferences, and then we have discussed the budget constraint. And after combining both of these two concepts, we have discussed consumer choice. And after discussing consumer choice, we have also discussed different concepts relevant to consumer choice, and we have derived a demand curve. Okay, we have also derived a demand curve. Likewise, this was the theory of consumer, or in other words, we can say consumer theory. Okay, but now we are going to start the production theory. Okay, in production theory, first of all, again, as we were discussing in consumer behavior, we were discussing that how a consumer will be making a choice in order to select some commodities. Okay, likewise, in production theory, what will happen? The producer and the supplier will be going to make a decision in producing a certain product while using different combinations of inputs which he have. Okay, so here also, first of all, we are going to discuss production theory, production technology. The first thing which we have to discuss is production technology. Okay. Whereas production technology, we say that it is a practical way, as we have discussed consumer theory, consumer preferences. We are saying that in production technology, first of all, we are going to see that it is a practical way. It is a practical way of describing how inputs can be transformed into output. Okay. First of all, we are going to discuss the production technology. Then we are going to discuss the cost constraint. Okay, the limited budget or the cost constraint which the supplier and the producer faces. And after combining both of the concepts of production technology and cost constraint, we are going to find out the input choices. We are going to find out the input choices. Okay. Okay, first of all, there is a goal for a certain supplier to produce, for example, 100 units of a thing. Okay, he will see that I can produce this 100 units by using different quantities of inputs. Okay, I can use different quantities of inputs as I have different types of inputs through which I can produce 100 units. ये inputs मैं increase करूँ, decrease करूँ, इसको किस तरह बनाऊँ? This is the input choice which the producer will be making, and we will see that how he will be making the input choice. But first we have to discuss two things here, and we are starting our discussion from the model of you can say one input. Okay, by using one input, we are going to see that how. So under the description of one, first of all, we are going to see that what is a production function, and this production technology, under production technology, the first thing which we have to discuss is the production function. And I guess that we have understood the production function in econ 100. econ 100 के अंदर production function आप लोगों ने लाजमी पढ़ा होगा, in which first of all, the first thing you do is you vary the or you can just start from here, that it indicates production function indicates the highest output which is denoted by q that a firm can produce for every specified combination of inputs. Okay, so we have to see that how much the producer can produce up to a highest or up till a highest output, or what is his its highest output, while having different combinations of inputs. So and it is very much relevant and resembles the theory of consumer as well, in which we were saying that we were going to see that there were we were discussing a utility function in which it was indicating the highest maximum, you can say, satisfaction which the consumer is having after having different combination of you can say market basket and consumer bundles. Okay, so here again for simplicity we are going to say that there are tons of, you can say, inputs which are being utilized in a production process. Okay, there may be some raw materials. Okay, there are matlab ke there is you can say there is a so there is a ton of possibilities which can come under input. Okay, but for simplicity we are going to discuss just two types of inputs. The first type of input is labor. Okay, labor, which is denoted by capital L, and the second type of input which we are going to discuss mostly is capital, ठीक है, which is denoted by K. ठीक है, for simplicity we are going to discuss just two inputs, which is labor and capital. So if this is the case, when we want to see the highest output, ठीक है, given different combination of labor and capital, we can denote this production function by this particular equation, which is quantity or output, ठीक है, is equal to, it is a function of capital and labor. It is a function of capital and labor. So there can be different possibilities in the quantities of choosing capital. There can be different possibilities in choosing the quantity of labor in order to get the highest output. Okay, so as we are discussing that we have different possibilities to change this combination in order to produce the highest possible output. Okay, we can say that these we cannot only we cannot always vary the quantities of capital and labor. We cannot always vary the quantity of capital and labor. The first thing which we want to take under account is the definition of short run and long run. Okay, so what I'm saying here is that however changing the combinations of input requires time. So in the short run, what happens that at least one factor can be varied, one factor of production can be varied. So here we are going to discuss the definition of short run and long run. So what is short run? ठीक है, short run is a state, and you can say it is a time period, ठीक है, in which we can at least in which we can at least one factor one factor cannot be varied. Okay, so there are different factors of production. For example, in our case we have discussed labor and capital, ठीक है, which is denoted by capital K. We have also land, ठीक है, and others, but for simplicity we are saying that we are just going to see different combinations of labor and capital. But here we are saying that at least one factor cannot be varied, ठीक है, and we know that we can increase and decrease the number of labors whenever we want, whenever the producer wants, but he cannot always increase and decrease the quantity of capital, which because it takes a lot of time for a firm to install a new capital or to change the technology which that particular firm is already employing. Okay, so the first thing which a firm does is first of all identify the assets and the capital which the firm is having, and then the firm starts to employ labor. So for example, there is a crisis which is being faced by a company, a firm. ठीक है, the first thing the firm will be doing is to lay off the labor. सबसे पहला काम वो क्या करेगी, लेबर को lay off करेगी. Why is this so? Because it is much easier to change the number of labor, whereas to change the number of capital. So in short run, the definition of short run is a time period in which at least one factor cannot be varied, and the factor which we are talking about here is a fixed input, is a fixed input. Okay, and this fixed input, when we are saying fixed input, we are saying that we cannot change the quantity of it, and in this context what we are saying, what we are talking about is capital. What we are talking about is capital or asset of a company, of a firm. So in the short run, what happens is that the company or a firm cannot vary the quantity of capital, but it can vary the number of labor. Okay, it can increase or decrease the number of labor which the company or a firm is employing. So at least one factor cannot be varied. Okay, and that particular factor is known as a fixed input. Okay, as a fixed input, which is also the capital. Okay, in this particular context, in this particular scenario. But in the long run, what happens, and by this we define the short and long run. जब भी हम short and long run बोलते हैं ना, तो हम इसी चीज से असल में डिफाइन और इसी चीज को असल में हम फोकस कर रहे होते हैं कि इन विच वी कैन वेरी द फैक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन. ठीक है, is long run in which all of this, so long run means that it is the time period in which all of the ठीक है factors can be varied. Okay, a time period in which all of the factors can be varied will be considered as long run, whereas in short run what will happen at least one factor cannot be varied, which is our fixed input or capital. So in this particular context, what we are going to do is we are going to focus on a production function. First of all, we are going to focus on a production function in which one type of input will be varied, whereas the other will be considered constant. The other will be considered constant. So we are going to change the number of labor. Again, we will see that how the change in the number of labor given the quantity of capital will increase and decrease the total output. Okay, so this is the first type of analysis which we are going to do in production theory. प्रोडक्शन थ्योरी के अंदर पहले हमें प्रोडक्शन टेक्नोलॉजी को डिस्कस करना है, विच इज अ प्रैक्टिकल वे ऑफ डिस्क्राइबिंग हाउ इनपुट्स कैन बी ट्रांसफॉर्म्ड इनटू आउटपुट. So first of all, we are going to see that if one type of input, which is labor in our case, is varied. Okay, if we are talking about only we are considering only one input, we are varying one input. Okay, then how this production technology will work, and then after this particular analysis we are going to vary both of the inputs which we are employing. So we in here in production we are going to focus on short run and long run. So first of all, we are discussing production technology in short run, in which we are going to vary one input, and then we are going to discuss production technology in long run, where we are going to vary both the inputs. ठीक है, and both the inputs means capital and labor. ठीक है, so then after discussing both of these short run and long run you can say production technology, we are going to introduce cost constraint, and then we are going to find out the input choices. Yeah, तो कंज्यूमर थ्योरी के अंदर तो हमने सिर्फ कंज्यूमर प्रेफरेंस को जिक्र किया विदाउट डिस्कसिंग शॉर्ट रन लॉन्ग रन. देन वी हैव डिस्कस्ड द बजट कंस्ट्रेंट एंड इवेंचुअली कंज्यूमर चॉइसेस. बट हियर देयर इज अ स्लाइट चेंज इन द डिस्कशन, that again we are going to discuss these three things: production technology, cost constraint, and input choices. But in production technology, first of all, we are going to discuss short run, and then we are going to discuss long run. So in short run what happens is or what is the definition of short run, in which you can at least one factor cannot be varied, which is known as a fixed input. And fixed input in our case, when we are considering only two outputs, we are talking about capital. So we are going in the units of capital or the quantity of capital will remain unchanged, whereas the number of labor will be changed. Okay, so the next step for a firm is to decide that how much a particular input to buy. Okay, input which is labor and capital in our case. Therefore, a firm is usually interested to see the cost and benefit on incremental basis or on average basis. Okay, so what we are going to do is, first of all, again we are going to change, or just let me make a table for you. Okay, so we are saying that this is a column for number of labor. ठीक है, labor which we are hiring, and I'm denoting this with L. ठीक है, and then we have the quantity of capital, and then we have the quantity of capital, which is K in our case, and I'm saying that, for example, I am first of all hiring, and then I have also total output. I also have total output and the total production which I am doing. Okay, total output. So when I have hired zero amount of labor, whereas the capital was 10. Okay, and I'm fixing 10 across this column. Okay, so if I have zero number of labor and 10 units of capital, the total production which I will be doing is zero. Okay, the total production or the total output is zero. Total output or total production. Okay, sorry. So if, for example, I have increased 1 unit of labor when the quantity of capital is 10, why I'm considering the capital of quantity 10? Only why? Because we have discussed earlier that this whole discussion is in the short run, in which the capital is remains unchanged, whereas the number of labors are changing. So if I have hired 1 unit of labor when the quantity of capital is 10, because the total production has increased from 0 to 15. Okay, and then I have increased my number of labor. I have hired another individual, which is 2. Okay, the second one, whereas the capital was given. Okay, the total production has increased from 15 to 40, increased from 15 to 40. Then I have hired another person, whereas the capital was 10. Okay, and my total production has increased to 69. Then I have had one more labor, ठीक है, and the quantity of capital is fixed again 10, ठीक है, and now the total output is, for example, 96. अच्छा जी. Then I have hired one more labor and the quantity of capital is fixed and the total output has increased to 120. Then I have hired another labor which is sixth and the total, you can say, capital is fixed, which is 10, and the total output has increased to 138. Okay, this is the total output which I am getting after using different combinations of labor and capital. Okay, ji. I have increased the number of labor again, which is 7, and the quantity of capital is 10. Okay, the total output which I am getting from here is 147. Okay. Then the eighth one, ninth one, 10th, ठीक है, 11th and 12th, ठीक है, and what I am having again is same fixed capital in all of these cases, and from 170 147 my output has increased to 152, ठीक है, and then my output has increased to 153, then my output has increased to 150, ठीक है, and then 143. Now you are looking that it has started to decline. The total output has started to decline. But what I am interested is, I am interested in to find out the incremental output or the incremental change which I am having by employing every new labor. By incremental change, I mean that if I am hiring an additional labor, okay, if I am hiring an additional labor, then how much his contribution is in the total output. Okay, so what is the contribution of, or what is the additional output which is produced when a labor increases by 1 unit? This is the question now. Okay, so I'm saying that what is the additional output, ठीक है, what is the additional output which I am having, ठीक है, इसको मैं अगली स्क्रीन पे भी लिख देता हूँ वैसे इस definition को, but here I'm just writing a glimpse of it, ठीक है. For example, I am saying that this is your marginal product, this is your marginal product in which I am going to find out that what is the additional output produced when labor increases by 1 unit, ठीक है, additional output when labor increases by 1 unit. ठीक है, so sometimes the firm is interested to see that what is the marginal productivity of my labor which I am hiring. ठीक है, and then the firm also is interested to see the average productivity of the labor. Okay, in which the firm is interested to know the productivity of the labor in terms of how much on average each worker can produce. Okay, so additional output on average when one labor increases. So what is the additional on average, you can say, productivity of the labor which I am hiring? So for example, when I have hired none of the labor, the marginal productivity was 0. Okay, the additional productivity was zero in this case, or you cannot say that zero भी कह सकते हैं, and the average productivity was also not measurable. ठीक है. But when I have hired one individual, again, there are the formulas to find out marginal productivity. The formula to find out marginal productivity is by dividing the change of labor with the change of, you can say, total output. So change of output divided by change of labor, change in labor. Okay. So for example, and when I have hired one individual, one labor, okay, I have increased the total production from 0 to 15, from 0 to 15. So this change means 15 minus 0 divided by the number of labor increased, which is by 1 unit. Okay, and the answer is 15. Okay, so here will be 15. Okay, then I'm saying that I have hired another person, which is the second one, and the production has increased from 15 to 40. Okay, so in this case, what is happening? We are going to first find out the change in the total output, which is 40 minus 15. Okay, and the number of labor which has increased from 1 to 2 is again 1. Is again 1. So 40 minus 15 equals 25. ठीक है. अच्छा जी, एक और मैं आपको करके दिखा देता हूँ कि when the total output has increased from 40 to 69, the total change between the total output is 69 minus 40, and again we have increased only 1 unit of labor. So again, what will happen? We have increased unit of labor. The change in labor is 1. So 69 minus 40 is 29. Okay, so here we will write 29. See, likewise is the case, and we are just going to measure all these. Okay, 27, 24, 18. Okay, and then we have 9, then we have 5, then we have 1, then we have minus 3, and then we have minus 7, and eventually minus 10. Okay, so this is how we are going to measure marginal product. Marginal product means the additional output, okay, when 1 unit of labor is increased. The additional output when 1 unit of labor is increased. But we are also interested to find out the additional output, okay, any additional output on average, how much the output is increasing when a labor is hired. Okay, on average, how much the quantity is increasing, how much the total output is increasing when you are hiring one more individual. Okay, so this is calculated by again Q over L. Okay, which is this is simply Q over L. This is not the change in Q divided by change in L. This is simply Q over L. And if we want to measure this again, what will happen? Okay, we are moving from here to here, okay, which is 15. So 15 divided by the number of labor, which is 1, and you will get the answer 15 again. Okay, you will get the answer 15. Okay, so the change here is, okay, or just focus on this one. So now you have 40, which is written like this, and we're not talking about change here. ठीक है, हम change की बात नहीं कर रहे, हम total की बात कर रहे हैं. This total output is coming from these total labor which I am hiring, and the total labor at this particular total output is 2. Okay, so 2 divided by 40 is 20. I will write 20 here. Okay, and likewise, then we have 69. Then we have 69. So 69 is the quantity, and how much is the labor? Going to divide this 3 with this, and you will get the answer 23. You will get the answer 23, and we will write here. Okay, and likewise is the case with all of the coming scenarios. Okay, 24, again 24. Okay, then we have 23, and then we have 1. Okay, then we have 19, then we have 17. Okay, and then we have 15, then 13, eventually 11.08. Okay, so like this we are going to measure first of all the total output. This is arbitrary. Total output तो हमने वैसे ही दी थी. Okay, but how we are going to measure marginal product? We are going to measure marginal product through this particular formula which I've written here. Okay, and I also try to make you understand how is calculated. And if you want to measure the average productivity, the average production of this particular firm, okay, this will be measured by this particular formula, which is Q over L. Okay, so now we are going to proceed and we will see that how a production function is made. ठीक है, with this available data set, इस available data set से हम production function किस तरह draw करते हैं. So this is the table again which I have made here. ठीक है, the same table which we have discussed earlier. And if you want to make the graph of this particular table, I've just replicated it in the Excel sheet. ठीक है, and you can see here कि अगर यहाँ पर हम इसका ग्राफ बनाना चाहे, we can first of all show you the graph of the production function, in which we first of all take the relationship, or we see that when the quantity of labor is increasing, how the total production is being affected. ठीक है, if you want to see this, after employing every new labor, ठीक है, how the total production is reacting to this. ठीक है, इसके लिए हम एक ग्राफ बना लेते हैं. ठीक है, for example, this is the graph now. ठीक है, of total production. This is the graph of total production. ठीक है, here you can see that on every point, ठीक है, you are looking that, for example, at when we have hired 4 individuals, when we have hired 4 individuals, the total production was 96. ठीक है, here we are looking at some information that at this particular, you can say, till 4. ठीक है, you are looking that the production is increasing. ठीक है, the production is increasing at an increasing rate, first the marginal productivity, or you can say it was from 0 to 15, and then from 15 to 40, then from 40 to 69. You can see that there is the curves are becoming steeper and steeper. ठीक है, वो वर्टिकल की तरफ जो है वर्टिकल बनती जा रही हैं. ठीक है, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता सीधी होती जा रही हैं. ठीक है, but after this particular point, but we are looking that here also the total production is increasing, but just look at this particular portion here. ठीक है, and this portion here. ठीक है, you will see that this portion here is flatter. ठीक है, as compared to this particular curve, part of the curve. ठीक है, यहाँ पर वो फिर ऊंचाई की तरफ ही जा रही थी, लेकिन अब ये थोड़ी सी ढलान की तरफ जा रही है. ठीक है, the curve has started to become, but the total production is increasing here also. ठीक है, the production has increased from 96 to 120. ठीक है, the production has increased from 90 to 120, but what is happening, the rate at which the production is increasing has started to decrease. ठीक है, because here the difference between 69 and 96. ठीक है, the difference between 69 and 96 is 27. ठीक है, but the difference between 96 and 120 is not 27, it is 24. ठीक है, we are looking at here. ठीक है, तो ये जो कर्व बना रहे हैं, this is showing you the relationship of total production and labor, but the slope of this curve, if you will see rise over run, अगर हम करें ना, सारों की slope निकालें, तो जब सारों की हम slope निकालेंगे ना, it will be the same which we have discussed here, marginal product. So marginal product here, this particular column, is the slope of this whole curve, ठीक है, यहाँ पर भी आप देख रहे हैं कि still the production is increasing but at a decreasing rate. Here also the curve, the production is increasing but at a decreasing rate. Again there is an increase of production, ठीक है, from 147 to 154, 152. ठीक है, here also the production is increasing but at a decreasing rate. From 152 to 153, again there is an increase in the production by 1 unit, but you can see that this particular production here is not same as the production here. ठीक है, तो आप आहिस्ता आहिस्ता देख रहे हैं कि whenever you are hiring one more labor, your marginal productivity has started to decline. और इसी को हम कहते हैं law of diminishing marginal product and utility. Whenever you are hiring more labor, what is happening? The productivity of the labor, or the marginal or the incremental benefit which you are having by employing one more labor has started to decline up till this point. Okay. After this point, what has happened? Your total production has started to decline from 153 to 150 when you have hired the 10th individual, and when you have hired the 11th individual, okay, your production has declined to 143, and eventually when you have employed the 12th individual, your total production has declined to 133. बात समझ में आ रही है? So this is the description of a production function. ठीक है कि whenever you are hiring more individuals, ठीक है, your total production is increasing, but in somewhere here what has happened that the production has is increasing but has started to increase at a decreasing rate. First it was increasing at an increasing rate, and then it has started to increase at a decreasing rate, at a decreasing rate. ठीक है, ये सारा आपको यही चीज बता रहा है कि this is an increasing rate. You can compare these two columns here. ठीक है, okay, the production is increasing at an increasing rate. This is the first stage. This is the second stage. Okay, okay, the production is increasing but at a decreasing rate. Okay, this is the second stage, and this is the third stage where your production has started to decline. Okay, so this is the description of a production function. Okay, but now we are going to look at we will compare the labor with the marginal product, with the marginal product and the average product, and we will see that what happens here. Okay, so again we are going to insert a line graph. Okay, line graph, this one. Okay, so this graph again is showing you something else. ठीक है, और this is, अगर हम इसको इसके साथ ही जोड़ने की कोशिश करें और इसको इस तरह कर लें, then we can get more insights. ठीक है, so okay, so we are not getting much insights here, but still what is happening here, okay, first of all, the orange line here is showing you, इसको मैं graph ऊपर कर लेता हूँ. Okay, the orange graph is showing you the average productivity, and the blue line here is showing you the marginal productivity. Okay, so what has happened is that whenever you are looking that this is the point, this is the particular point. Okay, इसको मैं खास कर रहा हूँ. ठीक है, if I can draw anything on it, this particular point, I'm talking about this particular point. Okay, this is the point. Okay, for example, we are considering this is point A, this is point A. So we are saying that before point A, what is happening? Before point A, what is happening? The curve of marginal productivity is more than, ठीक है, the curve of average productivity. ऐसे है या नहीं है? Marginal productivity is above the average productivity. ठीक है, and after this point, what has happened? ठीक है, what has happened that the marginal productivity after a point, or in the left side what is happening this, and in the right side what is happening, the marginal productivity is less than the average productivity, and at this particular point what is happening, the marginal productivity is equal to the average productivity. ठीक है, ऐसे ही है, सही. But the marginal productivity, when the marginal productivity has intersected with the average productivity, ठीक है, जब उसने intersect किया तो उसके फौरन बाद आप देख रहे हैं कि this was the maximum level of average productivity. So we are saying that the marginal productivity will intersect at the maximum level of average productivity. कि जब इसने इसको इंटरसेक्ट किया, जब मार्जिनल प्रोडक्टिविटी ने इंटरसेक्ट किया एवरेज को, ठीक है, सो दिस वाज द मैक्सिमम लेवल ऑफ एवरेज प्रोडक्टिविटी. दिस वाज द you can say maximum level of average productivity, and then average productivity has started to decline. And this we can also show in the graph as well, in the table as well, that when we have hired the fifth individual, what has happened, that the marginal productivity was equal to the average productivity, and at this particular point average productivity was at its maximum, and then it started to decline. 23 is less than 24, 21 is less than 23, it has started to decline. Okay, so this is the summary of this whole discussion. Okay, when you can say that the relationship between the marginal productivity and the average productivity is that average productivity increases, okay, increases, okay, whenever the marginal productivity is increasing, and when marginal productivity has started to decline, okay, then average productivity will start to decline only when the marginal productivity will intersect with the average productivity, okay, and it will start to decline. Then average productivity will also start to decline. This curve is for average productivity, and this is for productivity मेरे मुंह से बार बार निकल रहा है average product, and this is for marginal product. ठीक है, and this curve is of, you can say, total product. ठीक है, टोटल प्रोडक्ट यहाँ से हम निकालते हैं. ठीक है, so first of all the curve is increasing, or you can say the total production is increasing at an increasing rate, and then it has started to decline up till a certain point, and after that point it has started to decline. The total product has started to decline. ठीक है, so this is the description of what we have discussed here. Okay, and this is the case of you can say production function. The next thing which we have to discuss here is that if the you have we have discussed this in econ 100 as well. Okay, econ 100 के अंदर भी हमने ये पढ़ा है कि if you want to increase your economic growth, or you want to increase your economy, you want to grow the economy. Okay, one thing is to increase the resources. So whenever your resources are increasing, if your resources are increasing, eventually the economy starts to grow. ठीक है, लेकिन अब लाजमी बात है, people are facing scarce resources. ठीक है, we have limited resources, we cannot just increase the resources. आप किसी होमलेस बंदे को ये नहीं कह सकते कि यार तुम सड़क पे क्यों सोए हुए हो, तुम्हें तो चाहिए तुम घर ले लो, बोलेगा ठीक है जी मैं ले लेता हूँ. उसके पास तो resources नहीं है, that's why he is living on the streets. ठीक है, so just increasing the number of resources does not is not the solution, because people face scarce resources. ठीक है, one thing is if you want to increase the economy again, okay, one way around is to increase the productivity, is to increase the productivity of the labor. ठीक है, so if the productivity of the labor will increase, if the productivity of the labor will increase, eventually what will happen, okay, with the same amount of labor, ठीक है, the total production will increase. With the same amount of labor, the total production will increase. So for example, I am saying that the productivity of the labor has increased. ठीक है, I am making a scenario here, and I am saying that the total production of the labor has increased, and when the productivity of the labor has increased, now what has happened, the first individual which has been hired is producing 20, the second, ठीक है, has also increased the production, ठीक है, and now the total production is 45, ठीक है, the next one is 75, ठीक है, and then we have 90, for example 98, ठीक है, and then we have 130, 148, 157, 162, 163, 170, 163 again, and then 153. ठीक है, so this may be the new total production. ठीक है, and if the production of and if again the production of the productivity of labor is increasing, then this might be another case. ठीक है, this might be another case in which first this is zero production, then 30, then 55, then you can say 65, then 108, ठीक है, and then 140, 158, 167, 172, 173, 180, ठीक है, 183 or 173, and 163. ठीक है, may be the case. ठीक है, why? Because the productivity of the individual have increased. So if we put this information in Excel sheet, ठीक है, so we can draw another total production curve and you will see that the total production curve has shifted. So first, for example, if this was the production function, ठीक है, now this will be the production function and this might be another production function. ठीक है, so the production function has started to increase. ठीक है, production function increase करना शुरू कर देता है. And why it is increasing? Because the economy is growing while because of the increase in the productivity of the labor. ठीक है, so this may be the case that if you want to increase your production functions, just increase the productivity of the labor and your production function will start to increase. And let us see this in Excel. Let me put this data in the Excel. So after putting this information here in the Excel sheet, I will just remove the graphs which I have made earlier and look what I have done here. Subhanallah. Okay, so what should I do now is to erase all these things. Okay, let me erase it. Where is the eraser? Okay, so I have managed to remove the things which I have drawn. So okay, so what we were saying that, for example, here we have labor now and this is the total production. Then the productivity of the labor has increased. Again, the productivity of labor has increased. And now the total production will look like this. Okay, so here again, what is happening? Okay, so if we want to